lot of questions tonight. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Thirsty Thursday. As you can see, we've got our good friend Andrew Easton in here with us tonight. Good evening, Andrew. How you doing?
You know what, Brad? I am just about perfect. I had a great day today. Today was a good day at Eastonmade. The sun was shining. Couldn't get much better. How about you? How was your day, Brad? You watched some baseball?
Oh, I watched some baseball. I watched some softball. It's almost a daily thing here now with the kids, with high school season in full swing. The girls are struggling a little bit, but the boys are off to a 7-0 start, so it's exciting for them.
Oh, that is really exciting. Good for them. That's good.
So I'm sure that everybody's going to have a lot of questions for you tonight. I know you've got some exciting news to share with everyone. For those who didn't see the video that you put out earlier today, lots of good stuff in there. But let's just see who's joining us early here tonight. Chris Foltz is here. Mark Wakeling, good evening. Chris LeBlanc, Bob Fitch. How you doing, Bob? Good to see you. It looks like Joe Barney's got a question for you once we get started here. So I'll try to remember to let him get that question in. Paul McDonald, Dick, our buddy Dick from Old Guy Firewood. How you doing, my friend? I hope all is well. Richard Titcomb and Jeffrey from Mountaintop Outdoors. Good evening, Jeff and Patty. So we got a good group in here already. I don't want to drag on too long because I'll get way behind on the chat. This is normally when I start off on a bad foot, when I start doing all these shout outs and the chat gets backed up really quickly. So if you've got a question tonight, put a Q in front of it. It'll help Andrew and I kind of pick it out. Andrew, if you see something I missed, just jump in there and grab it for us. But since Joe said he's got the first question, then throw it on in there, Joe, and hopefully Andrew can help you out.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from Joe. I haven't heard from Joe in a long time. I hope his ultra's running well for him. I think him and the King of Firewood are still pounding the rounds through her, so that's good.
Yeah, I think the King of Firewood put an O-ring in the cylinder for him a couple weeks ago. Had a little leak going on, but with the amount of wood he's put through that thing, I don't think that's out of the question. But while we're waiting on Joe, we got a question from Glowing Firewood. This is a question for me. Do you have to sign up for the fellowship at the furnace? Well, last year I did that, but I don't think I'm going to do it this year. I think I'm just going to, however it goes, it goes. We are going to be well prepared for whoever decides to come. Being in June, I'm really hopeful the weather is cooperative. Won't hash through that again, what we went through last year, but we changed the date this year to hopefully have some better weather. So everyone is invited, and it's going to be a good time no matter what happens.
I'm really hopeful that it's just slightly warmer than last time.
Right. Yeah,
I think I'm near frozen up with all that rain. It was it was probably like, I don't know, probably 35 degrees, 30 degrees in around there and rainy. It was just cold and wet and damp, and we had a good time though. We had a blast. It was a good turnout for people, anyways.
Yeah, it was a good time for those people who did come. I think they played around the mud a little bit, but I think they got out of it what it's designed to do. And this year, I'm sure it's going to be bigger. Obviously, we're going to have equipment there this year that nobody's seen before, and we're going to get into that here in a few minutes.
Yeah, that's I'm really looking forward to it. I think we're going to go and we're going to come down a couple of days early and have a little bit of a small family vacation in Perryville, and
that's right.
Have a good time there and get it all set up. So we're really looking forward to it. Stacy booked everything there the other day, and there was like a March break sale on, so that was a pretty good deal there. So
yeah, I was talking to Stacy, and she said there was a good deal going on. She was going to grab it up. I think your boys will have a really good time up there.
Oh, I think they'll have a blast, and there's lots for the kids to do. That's what it's all about. We always try and do something with the kids and have them with us. I think they're going to miss Bangor and Joe's show this year. They're at that age now where they kind of got to go to school, right? So
right.
When they were really little, if they missed a couple of weeks of school a year, it wasn't that big of a deal. But now that Jack's getting older and Ashley's getting a wee bit older, it's they kind of got to be there. So
yeah, they can fall behind pretty quick once they get a little older.
Yeah, that's for sure. Where was Joe? I seen Joe's come up.
Here we go.
Well,
Andrew, what happens to all the firewood that's produced at the trade shows?
Well, you know what? It varies from trade show to trade show. There is some trade shows that require us to pick it up and remove it and make sure that it's cleaned up before it leaves. So we'll normally try and find somebody. We don't normally have too hard of a time, but find somebody with a dump trailer or something that they can bring to the show that we can load while we're doing it. Yeah, I think Boonville, we have a guy that takes it there. I can't remember what the fellow's name is. And then the Paul Bunyan Show in Ohio, they actually auction it off. I think it goes to some sort of a good cause there. So we always try to have the nicest, neatest looking pile of firewood at the Paul Bunyan Show. That's our goal because we want to get as much out of it for them as we can. I don't know whether it goes back to the Ohio Forestry Association or what they do with it, but that show in particular is really good for different the different causes. Like the Eastern Loggers, we gave away an altar there last year. Log load for kids, they do that, I think, and they do that in Boonville. So there's a lot of really good causes there too. So that's normally what we'll do with it.
Yeah, I stayed late one year at Paul Bunyan when they started that auction. I didn't stay till the end of the auction, but just watching them move around from booth to booth and auctioning those piles of wood off, it's pretty. They got like a real auctioneer that comes in and does it.
Oh yeah, and you would be absolutely surprised at how fast that gets cleaned up. Like it's incredible to see how fast it's like somebody grabs a rug and just chucks it and it's all gone. Yep. Like normally by the time that we're gone, we normally leave there Sunday evening around 5 or 6 o'clock, and it is normally tidied up by then. A lot of it.
I saw Bill Irwin got his MS324 skid steer splitter there. He's enjoying. So
they work really good. That was another one of those things that kind of took us by surprise too. We figured we'd sell a handful of them, but it ended up that we sold so many MS324s that actually shorted us for axis cylinders because it's the same cylinder. So we always have our supply chain that we're going to order so much for every 3, 4, 5, 6 months sort of thing. So that actually caught us by surprise and kind of put us out on some of the axis cylinders later on in production. So.
Yeah, and look who else is in here right above that comment. Our buddy Mike there at the Hogs Logs. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Yeah, the Hogs Logs. Yeah, I think he's actually got a processor coming up, that lad.
I got a message from him today that his Evo is south of the border.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah,
he said it was okay to talk about it tonight. He is he's going to be a proud new owner of an Evo as well.
He's going to like that one. We got it all together there the other night for him, and it performs awesome. It was like the gas works really good, and the diesel is you got 40 more. You have double the horsepower to work with, right? Like you know what the 40 horse one is like to run. Like when you get in the diesel, you have twice the horsepower to work with. So it's a pretty. But both of them are amazing to run. They're really happy the way these things have turned out. So.
Yeah, so he messaged me. Well, actually, truth be told, when I was up at your place on Sunday, I was looking around at the other ones you had sitting there, and I saw his name tag on one. So, I'm a man of integrity, so I didn't say anything to anybody except Mike himself. And he texted me tonight and said, hey, if it comes up on the live stream tonight, you can go ahead and talk about it because I'm really excited to get my hands on it. And I said, I bet you are.
I bet, awesome. Yeah. And it'll be a cool thing if anybody's heading to the Hoosier Firewood Hysteria there this weekend. I'm not able to make it. Obviously, I'm sitting here, but everybody will be able to see that machine run and perform down there. And Mark Joannis, I think he's run about 4 sticks of wood through it. So we'll see how Mark makes out down there.
So I might be more efficient running it than he is at this point.
Yeah, you might be right now. Yeah. He'll hop on her pretty good though. Mark's pretty handy.
Yeah, it's a simple machine to run too. So it's just getting in a rhythm, I think. Muscle memory of what handle does what, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah. Once you learn that and a handful of little tricks to run it, away you go. Like it really is a really intuitive machine to run. It's a handy machine to run. We kind of tried to take away all the little aggravations of running a small processor, like the in-feed chain and the splitter trough and log stop. I don't like those rinky-dink things, So.
That's right. Especially them flags.
Yeah, the rinky-dink flags on them.
Well,
We had one on the first one for Weebed. We ran like 2 Dexters. That's got to change.
I could tell in that very first video with that flag that you were a little annoyed with it. I could just tell by the tone of your voice in the video. You're like, get the trash off here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It just and I like we had to try. Like obviously there's a cost savings there and labor savings, time savings stuff from going that route, but they're just not handy to run without. Like if you have the flag on, you're always hunting and chasing around. You're always ahead of it or behind it.
Right.
It's not that handy of a thing to run. It really takes the performance out of it. Where with the log stop, you literally just run the log up to it and it stops.
It does. And then once you activate the clamp and the saw, it backs itself up a little bit so it's out of the way and doesn't interfere with the round dropping down.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that too is when it drops, because it only moves out of the way, however far when it drops and it goes like that, it kind of straightens the block of wood up too.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of the Evo, I know it's been you've had an awesome response to it. And now people seeing it on Adam's channel and Mike's channel and now on this channel. It's getting a lot of really, really good momentum. But you're already pretty backed up on these orders, right?
Yeah, we are. It really honestly took us by surprise. Like the firewood processor market hasn't been that strong, honestly. Like we're known for our bigger machines, our 48C, 60C machines. And with high interest rates, it's a lot of money. If you're going to borrow money and have to pay 7, 8, 9% on a piece of equipment like that, it's hard to do that and justify for firewood. There's only a handful of guys that are able to do that. So like we thought we'd be able to fill in some with the Evo here and there, but so far it's pretty well taken over processor production. Honestly, the board's completely and totally full with them. We're busy until you were to order one now. You're probably going to get it mid-July, late July, in around there. Which is good. Like it's awesome. Like I've been you were at the shop there on Sunday, and everybody was in at the shop organizing and rearranging and getting things set up. Like so we've been spending the last 3, 4, 5 weeks just organizing the shop to get it geared up and retooled and set up to build these Evos because there's so many of them to build and we need to be efficient when we're doing it. So
yeah, I think that's really great that you've had the response, but it's justified because like you mentioned in the beginning, you're trying to build a machine to fill a gap in your lineup, but it's actually not comparable to a lot of the other ones. The size maybe, but the way it's built is totally different than the other machines out there available right now in that range.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's helped with that too is we kind of have a horse show, man. Honestly, like I don't know how or why, but the timing of it is almost perfect. Like they come in the market because if other people know what's going on in the industry, like for processors, there's one competitor kind of bought out, took over another one, and then there's another major competitor that seems to be shifting away from processors going into chippers. And then there's only another couple of competitors that typically build a lesser quality machine on the market. So it's in terms of timing forward, I really got really lucky with it. So.
Well, that works out really good. Question here from outside in the 515. Brad, I'd like to send you a bottle of Iowa bourbon called Revelton. Well, if you'd like to send me a bottle of bourbon, I will. We'll crack it open on a live stream here one night. I'm always willing to try new things. By the way, tonight we are sipping on Yellowstone 108 proof bourbon. I gotta knock. This one's been open a little while. I gotta finish it off and get rid of it. So that's why we're sipping on that tonight. For those of you who like to ask what we're drinking tonight, Donald Slade is here. What's going on? And for those of you who are traveling to the Hoosier Firewood Hysteria this weekend, if you're not already there yet, safe travels to everybody, and I hope you have a fantastic time. I'd love to be there, but at this point in my life, it's I got to kind of pick and choose when I take vacations away from all the kids' activities. So Paul Bunyan is always number one on my list, and if I can get to some of the other stuff, I do.
Well, good news, you got a time machine now.
I do. I got a time machine. I It's exactly that's what I should call it, the time machine. Yeah, so I will. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right, Glowing Firewood 50. This is for you, Andrew. Log splitter. Do you think is the best to start with either with Eastonmade or other?
It depends on what your budget is, honestly. There's all kinds of guys. You're a perfect example of it. You started with your champion, and then Nate ended up getting his Ram splitter, and then he got up into the Eastonmade stuff. So it depends on what a guy's budget is. If you can afford to buy an Eastonmade and justify now, by all means, go right ahead. But if you're not at that point where you're comfortable spending that money, then by all means, don't worry about it and buy one down the road. I always like to compare it to a zero-turn lawnmower. Like that seems to be like the kind of niche that we have. Like there's lots of guys that like I'm guilty of it. I have this beautiful zero-turn Ariens crack like lawnmower. It's awesome. I love it. I can cut my grass in like 40 minutes. Do I need it? No. I can probably get along with the Craftsman just fine. That's 13 horsepower and cut my grass, but I like having good stuff, and I like cutting my grass. So it's
and I think when, especially if somebody's first getting into firewood, like I remember when I first started doing it. I mean, I would cut a little bit of firewood here and there for the backyard fire pit, but when this whole thing started after my father passed away, and I said this is something I'm going to do to keep me busy, to keep me in shape, and all that stuff. When I got that small box store splitter, I don't think I was really sure at that point where it was going to go, right? Once I realized how much work this is, and am I going to enjoy it? Am I not going to enjoy it? You kind of got to start small, I think. And then once you make that commitment, you realize, hey, this is something I really want to do. This is something I really enjoy. Then that's when your wheels start turning about, upgrading a machine.
Yeah. And the more volume you do, if you end up getting to the point where you can do a volume, like Mike had a really good video the other day about the what you can make with a firewood process. He broke it down in layman's terms really, really well. If you haven't watched the video, guys, go check out Mike Morgan there, Outdoors in the Morgan. But you can make a pretty good buck with a processor. Like in terms of a piece of equipment that you're going to buy for that kind of money, you're not going to buy a whole lot of machines or invest a whole lot like money into something that's going to give you that level of return. It is pretty incredible what you can make with one if you actually figure it out. So.
Country Roads Life. This is fun. It's not a question, but I just read this comment. I need a summary of the conversations with your wife so I can study it to prepare for my next purchase. Well, I'll have to look and see if I can find the envelope that I grabbed out of a drawer and started writing things down for her. And time, cost, energy, time, how long it takes to cut, how long it takes to split, how long it takes to move it. I think that was my biggest ammunition, was just the time machine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's I think that's a big one, because you can do a lot more with your day, and that's kind of what we find. Why we find guys buying processors is that they're going to do it as part of their income. It's part of the revenue stream, and if you can do it in a quarter of the time, then it makes good sense to do that. You can do other things with your time then.
Well, a little secret here, and I hope my part-time boss isn't watching right now, but I think I'm about ready to give a 2-month notice to my little part-time job that I have, because that's taking time away that I can be working with the time machine. Josh and Steph, I think we've got some new people in here tonight. Josh and Steph, if it's your first time here, welcome. Glad you're here. They've got a question for you, Andrew. They're looking to buy an MS324 for the Kubota Grand L4060, same hydraulic specs as yours. Any insight for us tractor owners looking to buy these units?
Not really a whole lot. Like when we build the MS324, we have it so that the skid steer plate bolts onto the unit, and you can set it. You can center it for if you run a skid steer, a mini skid steer, or you can offset it if you run a tractor, so you can actually see through your loader arms and block the piece of wood up that way. And that that's kind of key to it, because if you have it right in front of you centered, you can't see it. You cannot see anything what you're doing. But if you have it off to the side, you can look past, and it's half handy to run on a tractor, honestly. I've had the SS 424 and 524, the skid steer splitters that go at the front on the front of the tractor, and you just end up aggravating yourself. Because if you turn the tractor wheels that far, by the time that's out 8 feet, it moved like 10 feet. It's just
Right.
like a so the way that it's set up, it's actually pretty handy to run, and especially if you're looking to bust down big rounds and save your back, and it saves a lot of manual labor too, right? So
Yeah, I think this Mount Tammany Ridge, that Evo is such a beautiful piece of equipment. Congratulations. Well, I think that those accolades go to Gage, right?
yeah, you know what? I think I seen the numpty in here somewhere. I seen Gage Arsenal.
Is he really here?
If you see Gage Arsenal in the comments, he was supposed to comment tonight.
Okay.
I was more surprised that he comments on your videos and not on mine, but if you see Gage Arsenal in the comments, he is the designer of the Eastonmade Evo. He's a Harley Earl of Eastonmade. He's the brains of the operation. I'm just a pretty face, believe me.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, and obviously a very smart guy.
Well, we're really lucky. Like John Campbell and Greg can build just about it. And the two other engineers are John's coming up with an awesome drum tumbler. If you're looking for a firewood cleaner, he's done an awesome job on this. There's lots of things like the pivoting conveyor on the axis. He did a lot of the axis upgrades. John did. So I'm so lucky that I have these guys that are so incredibly creative at what they do, and they're so good at their job, and they're good to get along with. I don't know how you wouldn't like Gage Arsenal or John or anybody else at Eastonmade. They're just.
Well, the couple times I've hung out with you guys at the shows, and the couple times I've been up to your place, it seems like they're genuinely happy to work there. You know what I mean? I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's kind of been a fun thing. I mean, me and Gage were talking about that. It's like, well, we're both car guys. Like we like building cars. Same as Jeremy. A lot of guys are like that. It's like a firewood processor isn't that far off. We're just playing around and tinkering with things, right? So it's that's the fun part of it for us is doing that and building stuff.
Well, it's very similar to race cars. You're constantly trying to build them faster and stronger, right?
Oh yeah, and we'll even go out on a limb to make them as fast as we can.
Right. Mark, I'm not still in the doghouse with Val. I am no longer there, but now I get to prove myself, right? I get to say I told you so here soon. And I might not use those words, but I'm going to make sure I relay that.
We'll use them for the live stream, but nowhere else.
Maybe here in the next 6 months or so, I can get her out here to tell you all that this might be the best purchase that I've ever made. Oh, gosh. All right, Andrew, how long did it take to perfect your box wedge design? From what I've seen, that design is the best one out.
Not very long. It was kind of an afternoon project, honestly. And it worked kind of the first go around. that was one thing that actually worked pretty good. We didn't need to. I don't know if I've ever cut a box wedge apart to do it differently, actually.
Well, not a very dramatic story, but I guess what you had in your head ended up working.
Like if you're talking like the 16 way on the processor, we cut wedges apart for years before we got that figured out. Yeah, that was a lot of screwing around, and there was a lot of input from a lot of different people, and all the guys at the shop were the ones that figured it all out. Like Jeremy put that wing over top of the wedges, and we put that on, and there's no way that's a fun part too, because like the guys will just go ahead and do things. I'm normally pretty like, oh, why would we do that? And Jeremy and Gage and John, all the guys at the shop are like, oh, they'll just go ahead and do it. And then it normally ends up working good, because like Jeremy's a great example of it. He talks to all the customers. He's that involved with it, and he's as passionate about building good equipment as anything else. And so we try to make sure that people we listen to customers and do what they need to need to do to have a good machine. So
Keith Breeden here from Frederick County, Maryland, not too far away from me, about an hour and a half or so. Good evening, Keith. If it's your first time here, welcome. Make sure you interact with all these like-minded folks in the chat here. It's always a great community. And I'm just scrolling here looking for questions now. I'm pretty far behind in the chat, apparently, about 12 minutes, it looks like.
Yeah, there were quite a few coming through there, so we got to get caught up.
Russell wants to know why he should buy an Axis instead of a 17 VSC.
No, it's the color. It's orange and blue.
That's right.
I've done a couple of videos on that, Russ. If you look it up, I've pointed out a handful of key differences. I think it's a better built machine. There's a handful of advantages to having the Axis over the 17 VSC. But ultimately, if you buy any of the vertical splitters, like the 17 VSC, a hell of a good machine. You're not going to go wrong buying it by any means. And if you buy it, you're probably going to love it just like everybody else that's bought one. So I wouldn't stray away from one or the other by any means at all. Just buy what you're comfortable with and what you like.
Mike's got a question here, and this might be a good segue into the next topic that you talked about in your video today. Thanks for getting his machine across the border before the second. He was a little worried about the tariffs, but we've got updates on that, right?
Yeah, and on that note, Mike, that is the guys in the shop. The guys were there till about 8:30, 9 o'clock the other night getting this thing ready on the first. Jeremy and Mark was there. Mark was there getting it all together. Cole, big guy, the whole like there's a bunch of guys there to make sure that it was done to get across the border. And that's been a pretty stressful time for us the last couple of months. It looks like now we're going to be exempt from tariffs for quite a while, I would suspect. There are 4 of the Republican senators that voted against tariffs on Canada. So that's kind of a change in the tide for us big time, because the USMCA is what we fall under. It's free trade back and forth, and it's both ways. Like there's very little tariffs going one way or the other. There's a handful of products that Canada tariffs coming into Canada, a handful of products that the United States tariffs going into the United States. But for the most part, almost all products are free of tariffs and duties coming back and forth. So it looks like we're in the clear for that for quite some time. And we've had a lot of people on the fence waiting to put orders in just because of it. We got talking to one fella that had a really large order to come in. He sent me a message earlier saying that he's going to go ahead with it now that we're in the clear, and that's a really big deal for us, because it's about a month's worth of production in the shop. So
yeah, and you and I had a conversation about this thing when I was up there Sunday, and I really believe it's kind of like a smoke show. You know, yeah. I mean, it's like smoke and mirrors, is trying to negotiate things. I don't think it was ever in the plans to permanently do anything. I think it was a like kind of like strong arm type tactic. But I think it's going to come to a resolution here that's not going to be real painful for anybody.
Yeah, and I genuinely think that the rest of the world, there's a handful of obviously a lot of other countries that have large scale tariffs on them. And I think ultimately it's going to be something that's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a negotiating tool to at least get people talking and get their attention so they can make the changes that need to be made. And I think for the most part, it's going to work out in everybody's favor. I think everybody's kind of got to be patient and relax just a little wee bit here and get through it. So.
And speaking of Mike Morgan, here he is in the chat right now. Good evening, Mike. He said the Evo's been saving him so much time. He was able to spend 2 days at the cabin this week. That's awesome.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. He said it's been really fun watching Mike get onto that machine, because you see such a progression from like the first video to like the videos now, and it doesn't take that long. It takes like if you go out there, I don't know how you've been running yours, but after probably about half a day run one, you're pretty well onto it, and you can make pretty good production. And Mike had a video there either this morning or yesterday about running larger diameter wood through it. So he was running like 16, 17-inch wood through the 12-way, and that little bit of extra diameter. I did a video on that a couple of years ago about the diameter of your logs. If you can get stuff that's a little bit bigger, you can increase production dramatically. It really, really makes a huge difference in the production you get on a processor.
Yeah, I feel like I'm working in Mike's shadow right now a little bit because he's learning things slightly ahead of me, and I'm watching his videos, making mental notes. I went around the yard today after watching his video because he said when he had the 8-way wedge in, he was working through his smaller logs, and now he's starting to get to the bigger logs. He dropped the 12-way in and told us what diameter he was running. I went over to the yard today with a can of blue spray paint, and I just put a dot on the end of all the logs that were larger than 12 inches so that I can start separating and working through them as well while the 8-way's in there. And then I'll end up doing the same thing, swapping it for the 12 and running the bigger stuff.
Yeah. That's what to do with it. And the wedges change in and out of them fairly easy. It's normally a 2-person job. You can do it with 1 person, but if you have a second person there, they're really easy. Pull one bolt out, yank them out, throw the other wedge in. You're probably 10 minutes doing it. So it's easy enough to do it on the machine, and it's a good setup too. Like the wedge stays in place, doesn't move around on you. If you watch some of the other videos of processors running, like the wedge isn't connected to the bottom, so it just keeps floating up, and you can see and once it gets up so high, you're shoving big pieces out to the bottom of it then.
Yep. And that's something that I've noticed already on it is that if you start with the big end of the log, by the time you get to the small end of the log, you need to drop that wedge down just slightly. And when you're going from bigger stuff to smaller stuff, you still have that capability, the way that outfeed is designed, where that wedge will still go down, even if there's wood already in it that's bigger than what's coming in at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's a big part of that. And in terms of longevity and stuff, if you see some of the machines, if somebody's been really rough with them, because the sides are square on them, they end up bowing out because they've got plugged up so bad and jammed up so bad. So with the way this set up, I don't think you'd ever run into that by any means.
Glowing Firewood 50 has a question, and I don't know if you want to tell the short version or the long version of the story, but it's a pretty inspiring story that you could probably write a book about.
Yeah, I was. I've been about 10 years right now. Honestly, it was 10 years in February 2nd. Groundhog Day was 10 years since the first Eastonmade wood splitter went out, and it was. It's been interesting. I have if you go over to my channel there, you'll be able to. I did a video on February 2nd about it. You can get the long version of the story there, so I don't bore everybody on here that's probably heard it 10 times. So,
well, I mean,
if you check it out there, Glowing Firewood, you'll be able to see it. It's a pretty fun story, anyways.
I mean, the gist of it in the beginning though is you quit your job while Stacy was pregnant and decided to start building log splitters, which scared the hell out of Stacy, right?
Yeah, I wasn't a very popular guy around here for a wee while there. Even like I wasn't terribly popular with Stacy's parents or Stacy. God love her. She's a pretty supportive woman. She was iffy about it a little bit here and there, but she came around there after a wee while. So
yeah, it's a pretty cool story. When I was up there with you over the winter, when you showed me where it all began, where you built the first one. And that was
you wouldn't think it started there, would you? If you drove by, you'd never know that.
Yep.
You should have seen that place. Where the first year I was there was wood splitters lined right up to the road. I wish I took a picture. I had 6 wood splitters lined up out that driveway there, and I thought that was. I thought we had hit the big time there. We had that many splitters on the go. There was me and Corey Murphy working away there, and it was. Well, that's how you learn things. That's how you do things too, right? You just have to go and do them. That's what it's all
about. He also wants to know, how many employees do you currently have?
55 to 60 and around there. I don't know if it's 55 and I don't know if it's 60, but it's around there.
Joe, is it just me or does the Evo look very similar to a Dyna SC16? Joe, it's just you.
Color, Joe.
It's just you, Joe. It is nothing like a Dyna. I've been around them. I've actually looked at those pretty closely. And, you got to get them next to each other, Joe, and you'll realize how wrong you are, buddy.
Yeah. When you get them side by side, there's pretty substantial difference there. Like I don't want to put anybody down, but like the SC16 Dyna is the big Dyna. And I think even the little Evo outweighs it. So it's pretty. They're pretty substantial difference when you look at it. I don't think you go wrong buying the Dyna either, by any means, but there's a pretty substantial difference there.
Just the in feed is the biggest thing that comes to mind. The in feed is
Yeah.
so much different.
Yeah, the in feed, the splitter trough at the back of it. There's a handful of things like that make a big difference in it. Yeah, in the function of the machine, really. So.
Brad, your Evo video was great for anyone wanting one. Great walkthrough. Well, there's been a lot of great videos out there, right? I mean, Andrew, when he first unveiled it, he put out a lot of really good videos showing some of these highlights that we were just talking about. Mike Morgan has put out a lot of good stuff. Adam has put out a lot of good stuff over there at Hometown Acres. So when I did that first video, I was just kind of I had some questions in my mind that I was looking for in the videos that I might not have, that they talked about, but maybe not as specific as I wanted to see. And then some other things that I brought up. So I was trying to do something a little different than everybody else had. And I was just covering some other things. And hopefully as people are looking at these machines, they can scroll through these different videos on these different channels and get new information, not just the same thing over and over again. That was my goal there.
Yeah. And everybody, and the cool thing about that too, is everybody picks up on different little things too, right? Like just like, One guy might notice this because he's run into that from life experience, and one guy might notice this a lot more too, right? So, yeah.
I mean, something for me, just because of my experience with DOT, when I noticed all the protection around the hydraulic hoses, that was something that stuck out to me. Is that anywhere that those hoses are in contact with something that could rub on them and chafe on them, you guys have that protected. And that's not something you see on a lot of equipment. That's something that easily gets overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Just scrolling for questions here. Was Mark in here? Oh, Mark is here.
Oh yeah, Mark's here. Oh yeah. He's been lurking around here for a while. I don't know if he's still on or not. It's past my bedtime. It's past his bedtime. But I had a nap today, so I'm doing all right. I got a nap in.
Oh, that's good. Because, I mean, I don't think we'll go as late as we have in the past here. But you never know.
Oh, I'm up for it. I'm pretty easy.
240 people in here right now. So there's definitely people in here that have questions or want to learn something.
That's what we're here for.
Bill says that the guys on YouTube have cost him a lot of money. and look who it is right there.
There's the numpty. That's the brains of the operation Eastonmade right there.
Good evening, Gage. Good to see you. Glad you stopped in here, buddy. It was great seeing you up there this past weekend. This could be a question for you or me. I have a 1222 here in Maryland, and if I had an Evo, would it be worth keeping the 1222? Go ahead and give him your thoughts, and then I'll give him mine. Yes.
No matter what, you still have to have a good splitter. You're going to have stuff that is too big. Well,
crooked.
You're going to have stuff like blocks you're going to have to cut off. You're still going to need to have a splitter, whether it be the 1222 or not. You're still going to need to have a splitter around that you're going to have to run periodically to get rid of that bigger stuff or do something with it. Mike had a good video of that, or he was talking about that, how some was offcuts and stuff that he's cutting maybe big knots or crooks out of the wood or whatever he's throwing off to do with his wolf ridge there. So yeah.
So I was thinking about that as well. And, like you said, the big stuff or the stuff that's a little bit gnarly. But there's also, if you get poles, I think it's still worth, unless they're perfectly straight, like prime logs, it's still worth it to take the time to go through and clean those logs up a little bit before you put them up on the processor. I think, if you've got a knot sticking out, or if you've got, one little section in the log that you want to get rid of, it'll make it go through the processor so much easier. But with the wide infeed table on the Evo, there's room on there for that thing to run a crook through. But not everything's going to be perfect that you get in, depending on where you're getting your wood from. If you're buying perfect poles, then maybe it's not as big of a deal for you as it is for somebody else that, might get a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and then like you said, the Evo is incredibly forgiving. Like if you're like crooked wood stuff that has knots, it's really, 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 really forgiving. That infeed works amazing on it. compared to a lot of the other machines out there. There's really not a whole lot that you can't feed through, but you can make your life a little bit easier by taking a couple extra steps beforehand.
Right. Kevin, you will see the Evo running on the next video. All the videos come out every Wednesday, and you will see we're going to load the live deck up and start running it. I expect to see some comments from people telling me that I'm running it too slow or I'm not running it smooth yet. So I've been running a couple logs through it here and there, just getting used to the controls before I put myself on display for you all. But next Wednesday, you will see it. Hey, Mike's got a good point here. It's always better to ask for forgiveness than permission in some situations. You know, that's almost at the point that I was at with Valerie. I was trying to do the right thing and make it a joint decision. A little bit of resistance there in the beginning, and I was thinking to myself, you know what, I may just have to do it and ask for forgiveness later. But she eventually got on board, so it's all good.
Yeah, I just bought a big gooseneck trailer today, and Stacey's at the point now where she just shakes her head.
The wise choice, Firewood. I didn't know leaving the blue tag on your machine was a thing. I ripped mine off. I need a new one, Andrew. Well, let me tell you something. Those blue tags hold up really well to the elements.
Yeah, they really, really do it. I think we're still on the first box of blue tags we ever bought.
Yeah, I still have a blue tag on my machine that says Nate.
We should have done that with your processor.
Wow, we got a super chat here from Mark himself. Congrats to Brad on his time machine. I guess that's what we've coined it now, the time machine. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Cheers to you, my friend. You know, I think WD30, Will Davidson, commented on either a Facebook post or a YouTube video that I posted about the Evo. And he said, I need a disc cleaner now. And Mark commented and said, stand by or something along those lines. So you mentioned earlier the drum cleaner that they're working on. So that must have been the clue.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a nice setup. And for those of you that don't know, Mark Joannis sells Eastonmade for us. He does the processors and a handful of splitters. And if you are looking for a used processor or used equipment, Mark is the guy you want to talk to. I think he knows where every single piece of firewood equipment is east of the Mississippi. And I'm dead serious in saying that. He knows where just about everything is. So if you're looking for a used piece of equipment, you're looking for a new Eastonmade processor, you give Mark a call and he'll fix you up.
Mercury Man Garage in the Outdoors. Sounds like a car guy there, Andrew. Says, good evening, fellas. First time here. Well, welcome. Love all the Evo videos. Awesome machine and well done to Eastonmade.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
And Gage says it's a good thing the stream is on this channel because I guess he wouldn't watch it if it was on yours, Andrew. Oh, goodness.
He's probably watched a seagull video by now. I don't know if anybody can see it, but right there is a seagull from Gage. The guys that shot built me this bar. That's Gage's seagull right there. The apostrophe in Andrew's bar is Gage's seagull. If you haven't watched the seagull videos on YouTube yet, you got to go look at them after this. You'll spend hours and hours watching this guy talk seagull.
I seem to remember a while back there was a mention that he hides little things in the machines. That's not true though, right?
No, not too often on the machines. We talked about doing that though, like hiding like little Easter eggs. Like have you ever?
Right.
Any of the Corvette guys, there's Easter eggs all over a Corvette, like little wee things you don't pick up on until you have one, like little emblems and stuff like that in them, and different things like that. So I think my Challenger is actually, I guess all the jailbreaks and super stocks are all signed by the assembly crew on the floorboards on the way out under the seats. I haven't ever pulled my seats out to check, but I guess that's a thing. So
Yeah, I've heard that. Richard says, I hear that the Evo is the cost of a pickup truck. Are we looking at a Ford Ranger, F-150, F-250, or F-350? And you have said a half ton, right?
A Ford fucking Ranger.
Ranger danger.
You're looking at the cost of an Evo right now, depending on which model you're looking at. And this is going to go up in the coming weeks. So now that we built a couple, we know what the cost is on them. The gas versions are around 50,000 US, and the diesel I think is like 62,000 US. So depending on whether you're buying a gas pickup or diesel pickup, that's about the cut on it, Tom.
And you've always said a half ton, right?
Yeah, half ton.
In all your videos, half ton.
You're not spending a whole lot of money on one for what one of these machines is going to produce for you. You're not spending a whole lot of money on one.
Mount Tammany Ridge. I'm going to be building my own box wedge sometime in the future. Saving up is going to be the struggle. However, I've committed myself to it. I have the H-beam so far. I've seen
I would think John would be able to do that. He probably has some good videos on that one.
I've seen a lot of really well-built homemade splitters, right? I guess if you're building it for yourself, you just go all out with it.
Oh, I've seen some cool stuff that people have built over the years. And that's kind of the fun thing about going to shows is you always have a lot of guys come up to me at shows and show you stuff they built. I've had people build. I have one guy in Ohio. Trying to think of what the lad's name is. Geez, I can picture him. I can picture his wife.
It's tough with names sometimes.
Yeah. If I think of it, I'll give them a shout out here. But he had built an Eastonmade, and I've like for a guy with basic hand tools, he almost made an exact copy of it. I couldn't believe it. Like he nailed it. It turned out awesome.
I think he posted that online. I think he had that on social media because it was getting shared around a little bit. He painted it orange and blue too, right?
Oh yeah, no, I've seen some guys do some pretty amazing things. Some people that are really handy.
The Firewood hut. Does the Evo window or door have a saw kill switch on it when readjusting the round in the splitting chamber?
It doesn't right now. We're looking at doing it in the future, but there is a emergency stop right on the control panel. So when you open it up, you can hit the emergency stop when you go into it.
Yeah, and that emergency stop button disables the saw, but the rest of the machine will still run, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
All right. Is Brady going to be trained to run the Evo to really up the Firewood production with Brad loading the deck with the skid steer? I think I'm going to be doing it the other way around. I think I'm going to get Brady proficient with the skid steer so that I can run the processor. I don't know. He'll probably eventually learn a little bit of both. But I'm like a kid in a candy store right now running this machine. So I'm being a little selfish right now. Rob McDonald. Andrew, I stopped at the shop yesterday to say hi, but I was a bit late. Got there right at 4:30 and the guys were leaving. I just wanted to encourage you guys with the tariffs, etc.
You would have just missed me. I left probably 10 after 4. I had to get home, and I had to watch the speech yesterday. I was going to throw popcorn at the TV if it was something different.
Oh, man. Does the Evo come standard with the conveyor?
No, it doesn't. And the only reason we don't do it is because we have a lot of different conveyor options. Like Adam and Mike Morgan both have the attached conveyor. So if you want to do mobile work or you have a smaller wood yard, it's really compact, nice to get around. Or like yourself, Brad, you have the SDK24. So there's a lot of different options for the conveyors on them. So we always price them separately.
Yeah, and I think if you didn't check out my video, a little shameless self-promotion here, part of that video I showed how they configured the conveyor to have a new bottom plate on the conveyor. You just unbolt the old one and put the new one on. It's got a pedal hook attachment to where you can still attach your existing my 24-foot conveyor to the back of the Evo, which is amazing. That's really, really simple thing, but a huge deal.
Yeah, it is absolutely, because like you said in your video, in your head, you're thinking you got to move the processor head, move the conveyor head, then back the processor back into the machine. That takes probably 15-20 minutes to do it. Where if it's hooked together, you just simply pull it ahead and start a new pile. It takes a minute instead of 15-20, and you got to do that probably once a day. If you're running SDK24, you're probably once or twice a day. You're going to have to do that if you're running kind of full scale all day production.
Mm-hmm. And look who it is, our buddy Dan Shifty from Back 40 Firewood with a super chat. Hopefully I'll still be awake by the time you get to this. What is the banging noise in Andrew's videos? Sounds like a chain link fence getting slammed into every few minutes.
The banging noise.
I don't know what he's talking about, Andrew. I haven't noticed that.
I have no idea.
I don't know if that's an inside joke or what. Dan, you're going to have to elaborate there, buddy. Mercury Man Garage and Outdoors, is the Evo a good choice for high output bundle wood production?
Oh yeah, you get the 16-way wedge in that thing, you won't beat it. Honestly, the bang for your buck, you won't beat that with the 16-way in it, and it makes nearly perfect firewood. You're gonna get some more scraps off it, but if you get the drum tumbler behind it, you're gonna be making about the best bundle firewood you're gonna be able to make with it.
So the more ways you split wood, the more scraps you're going to get. That's just the nature of the beast. It doesn't matter what machine you're running or what brand you're running. However, you can minimize that by putting the right size wood through the right wedge.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that 16-way wedge is pretty good too. Like even if you're into smaller diameter stuff, you're going to get some slivers off the outside of it, but you're still going to get like four really good pieces or 8 really good pieces out of it. Like it is a really, really, really nice wedge to run if you're doing bundle wood, because you're not going to resplit anything. Like if you can save an extra step down the road and not handle the wood again, that is the key to it. You might spend you might lose. I think it was maybe 15 or 20% waste is what Adam at Hometown Acres figured out. Him and Matt was somewhere around 15%. But the throughput and production, the time savings at the end of it is dramatic.
Absolutely. It's just like running the 7-way box wedge on my 1222.
Yep.
The box wedge will create a lot of scraps, but the volume that you make and the time that you save by doing that totally, in my mind, eliminates the scraps that you're producing.
Yeah, and on that note too, like what with our machines too, you can pull that 7-way out and put a 6-way in if you're into ideal size wood for the 6-way, or if you want to run a 4-way or whatever too, right? So
yep. Brad 6, how you doing, my friend? What are your thoughts on the Evo after running it some? It is an absolute animal, and it's a little ahead of me right now, but I'm going to catch up to it, and I'm going to dominate the thing here pretty soon. But no, it is it's extremely well built, and it's just amazing how fast you can produce firewood and how little effort it takes to produce the firewood. Literally, the hardest part, I think, is loading the wood onto the live deck.
Yeah, probably. It probably is. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Joe says I'm 20 minutes behind on the chat. Goodness gracious. Country Roads Life says the Wrap Master for me is the next thing. Good video on it. Brad was wondering about putting the labels on it while it's wrapping, and you showed that it is easily done. Yeah, so the Wrap Master, we've made several hundred bundles with it now between Brady and I, and it wraps 4 times. And the way I do it is I have my labels right there in front of me on the Wrap Master, right next to my handles, and I grab a label, push the button, and after the second time around, I throw the label in, and then it does 2 more wraps over top the label, and I've had 0 problems with it. I did have one time when I grabbed 2. I didn't grab my label in time, so I was kind of in a hurry to grab it because that thing wraps so fast, and I put 2 labels in instead of 1, but it is what it is.
You just have to charge double for that bundle because it's twice as good.
That's right. So, yeah, it works really, really well. And I'm going to be putting up a video here soon of the adapter that they made when you're wrapping smaller wood, like 12-inch smoker wood. I've got a bunch of apple that I'm going to be wrapping up here soon, and I'm going to use the wider wrap with that adapter that narrows the wrap down a little bit and show you how well that works. I've done a few bundles with it so far, and it's a simple idea, but it works really, really well. So I wanted to show that to everybody too.
Yeah. You know what? When Greg told me that, I thought he was talking in his ear. I thought there's no way that's possibly going to work. You know what? It works pretty good.
It works fantastic. I mean, it's so much simpler than to have to change wraps or buy two different size wraps based on what size wood you're bundling. And it works really good.
And the Wrap Master was one of those funny projects too, where you think it's such a simple thing to build, but it's one of those things that took us a long. Like, we spent a lot of time screwing around with that to make it work right. Like, even like the placement of the wheels and like stuff like that. Like, once we got like the first one together, that's probably the third or fourth like iteration of that Wrap Master that we built, like a almost full redesign. Like, we always wanted to have the servo drive motor and the through drive like what we have, but just the layout of it. So some of those things, it's easier said than done to do that, because you don't want to be bending over, busting your back, pulling things out. You want to make sure you have a clear work area so you're not kicking things. And we're really happy with that one turned out. Yeah,
it works really well. And I tell you, the servo motor, anything you do, you always it has to be on another level. But with that servo motor, it's so nice not to have a belt or a chain or something to worry about there. You know what I mean? Everything is independent on itself.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like, it saves a pile of maintenance. I mean, anybody's familiar with servo motors, like they run on all industrial equipment. That runs all day, every day, doesn't shut off. Like, I don't think you'd ever touch that, and it takes a very, very small amount of power to actually run that little servo motor. It's a pretty incredible setup.
And it starts and stops in the same place every time, so the roller wrap is never in your way when you're trying to deal with, putting your handles on or removing the bundles from the rack and getting started with the next bundle. That's one of the best things about it too.
Yeah, like your wrap doesn't drift on. It was a little bit of screwing around to get it right, but I'm really happy with that one turned out too. It works good.
Mr. Scuba is here. I know he sold his Dyna a little while back, but he had it at the Hope event the first year we went up there. He had his SC16 for 13 years, and he sees a huge difference. If I was 15 years younger and just starting out, I would be getting an Evo. So I guess that's kind of following up on Joe's comment that he thought they were similar, and there's a guy that ran one for 13 years seeing a huge difference.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to try to catch up here. I'm only going to be intercepting comments with the Q's in front of them. So what is the fastest wood splitter in cycle time?
Your 24D. The 24D is the fast. So it's like 3.5 seconds for a wood splitter, and it's incredibly fast. So me and Jeremy, a Macho Man there. He we did a face core of wood. I think we were a little over 3 minutes with it for a face core of wood. And when you get down to a cycle time of even the 1222 at 5.5 seconds, like, you can't physically move wood that fast.
No, you need two people to run it efficiently.
You can do it for a short period of time, but I'm in pretty good shape. I couldn't run it like that for any length of time. I might get 10, 15 minutes of it in there like that before I've got to stop and have a pint. Like, it's like that 24D, like Mike from Canal, I think he's gonna have his down at the Hoosier Firewood area this weekend. Like it's an absolute animal that 24D, how fast it runs.
Yeah, and it's something I've noticed too, speaking about trying to keep up with the machine, even with the 1222 and the Axis. The new Axis is even faster than the one I have. But I find myself sometimes rushing myself to keep up with the machine and have to consciously tell myself, hey, you're not going to keep up with this machine. Just do it at your own pace.
Yeah.
Because you wear yourself out if you try to keep up with it.
Yeah, just stay steady with it. And like I said, like the 24D is the fastest. 37D cycle is about 4.5, 5 seconds. But it doesn't slow down quite as easy as a 24D. So it's once you get in there, you're splitting hairs. Like there's some machines, there's some splitters out there that they run like 45 and 50 GPM hydraulic systems on them, and you're just moving a lot of oil, you're creating a lot of heat, and there's not much purpose to it. Like you're beating a dead horse at that point.
Now I've got a question for you. Just came to my head. When you're building these machines that have such fast cycle times, what goes into calculating how much hydraulic oil you need in your tank to keep that machine running without running that oil too hot?
Well, typically for a hydraulic system, they say 3-to-1. So if you have a 22 GPM pump, you're going to want to have like a 66 GPM or 66 gallon hydraulic tank. Obviously, on a wood splitter, to have a 66 gallon hydraulic tank the whole machine would be a hydraulic tank. It would be
right.
Huge. So that's where you see oil coolers starting to come into play.
Right.
And different ways to do it. Like we have a 37 GPM pump on the diesel machines. It's still the 25 gallon tank. But with a piston pump, they tend to run a lot cooler to start with. Like they're a lot cooler on a pump. And then you can normally take what we do with them is there's a little hole in the pump in the actual case of the pump. They call it case drain. And the oil out of that is going to be the hottest oil in the whole machine. So we run that through an oil cooler and back to the tank. And that's lots enough to cool it off. Once you start taking BTUs out of the machine, you normally want to take the hottest oil, and that's what you want to run through the cooler. We do that with the Evo too. Like if you look at your Evo, we run the two smaller pumps, and then your saw pump runs through your oil cooler. And it's again the saw is going to be the hottest oil you're going to have. So
right. Chris Frakes, how you doing tonight, Chris? Good to see you in here. Any future plans for ultra updates, such as a log lift, auto cycle, or hydraulic wedge?
Huh. That's an odd question to ask. You'll see some things from us.
He might have.
You won't see us do auto cycle on one. You won't see us do a hydraulic wedge on one. I will say that. Like the hydraulic wedge, like a machine that fast, I don't think it's necessary on it. Like if anybody's running ultra, they know what I mean. Like you're pulling wood back through, you're cycling through it. Like to have a hydraulic wedge is going to be one other thing you have to chase around. And then the auto cycle, for the same reason, the machine's so fast that you probably don't want to have auto cycle on it. We have auto cycle on it. People are going to start to get hurt because there's no log cradles on it either. There's no way to physically get your hands off the wood when you split. You have to be more or less holding the wood as you split it. So you won't see us do an auto cycle on one, but the other one, it's probably in the works here in the coming months, fairly soon. Because we want to build something like we want to build something that's going to be in that 6,000, 6,500 range with a log lift on it. So that's likely what you'll see us come up with. I think that you're going to lose a little bit of functionality with it. Doing that in terms of re-splitter, because you'll limit how much room you have on one side or the other to run it. So
the Ultra's got such a nice big table on the outfeed side that if you do have to do a resplit, there's a lot of room there to stage your wood to bring it back for resplitting.
Yeah, and the other end of that too, like if we do an Ultra like that, we want to be able to have the log lift come up and be part of the table. Like that'll be the other thing. You don't want to get rid of the table. You want it to be part of the table then. So there's a handful of things like that when we do it, we're gonna have to figure out. But again, the guys are so freaking handy there. Like I can run the CAD software, and I'm just like I'm like an elderly man trying to run a cell phone. And compared to these guys that just whip through it so quick and are so creative and so good at it. So,
and you had mentioned you have some plans here soon to, I don't want to say mass produce, but have some machines in stock?
Yeah, there's going to be a handful of units like the Ultra that we're going to try and build in large batches, and we're going to see if that's going to be able to help. Honestly, we're probably going to sell them the same price, but it can hopefully help us get them out to people sooner, and hopefully see if we can lower some cost on them too. So,
Perth Haven Firewood, first time here as well. Well, welcome. Glad to see you here. Hope you continue to join us. We do this every month, and it's good to see you here. What is the cheapest log splitter you have, Andrew Barr?
The Ultra is going to be the Ultra is going to be the cheapest in terms of something that's self-contained. But then you have the MS324 that goes on the front of a skid steer tractor.
And I tell you what, the Ultra, we were talking earlier in the live stream about somebody just starting out. Should you buy, your box store splitter or go straight to like an Eastonmade? And I think if you were to buy an Ultra to start out, if your budget allowed you to buy an Ultra right when you were starting out, I don't think you would need to upgrade, for a good bit of time.
It would tie you over for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a fast machine. When I had that one here last year for the fellowship that you brought down, and the gentleman picked it up here after the fellowship, I got to run it for a couple days, and I tell you, it was just it's so fast. It's almost to the point where unless you have your round staged right there where you can grab it and put it back in, the cycle time is just so fast that it's a really, really nice machine for the price.
You're really not that much longer to split a base cord or a cord of wood with an Ultra than you are a 1222. Honestly, you're not.
Yeah.
I did a video years ago of me filling up the back of a Murphy's pickup truck here, 8-foot bed, and I think it was maybe 10 minutes doing it.
Yeah,
at the point where the bed of the truck was overfull, and that's roughly a base cord. So you're not going to run it. You're not going to get a machine that's much faster than that. And again, to move that volume of wood for an extended period of time, there's only probably 2-3% of the people that are going to be able to do that in the world. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously everybody knows the Ultra is a great machine, but I personally don't think it gets enough credit. Logan, what do I do with all the bladders that come inside the IBC totes? I can't get rid of those things. I normally just put them on Marketplace for free. I save a few of them for myself because I cut them in half or cut the bottoms out of them to use for scraps and trash in the yard. They're really handy to throw junk in when you're cleaning up. But normally I just throw them on Marketplace for free, and somebody always comes and gets them.
And if you haven't got tires to start your brush pile, they work just as good as a tire do. That's
really,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
They really do.
Michael D here with a super chat. Thank you, Mike. Cheers to you, Brad and Andrew, the god of wood splitting. Cheers there, Michael. Thank you.
Well, I'm not quite sure about that, but we'll take it.
I don't know. You lead the charge on most things there. I don't think anybody can deny that. And it's good for everybody because, there's a constant battle to the customer always wins. The customer wins because everybody's, the competition in the industry.
Yeah, that is a cool part about that too, is that there are that many other creative people in this industry right now. There's some pretty stiff competition in this commercial or industrial wood splitter industry right now, and not only just here in North America, but worldwide. There's some people doing some cool stuff.
For sure. Rolf Akers, Andrew, why did you go with a gear pump on the Evo and not a piston pump like the other processors? Was cost a reason?
Not really. No, cost is actually fairly similar on it. We're a little bit more for a piston pump on the Evo, but simplicity of the hydraulic system. Honestly, it's it's a lot simpler to do with the gear pump rather than the piston pump. And the other thing too, when we get into the gas engines, most piston pumps can't run much more than 2,800, 3,000 RPM. So a gas engine runs at 3,800. So to find a piston pump capable of running at that high of an RPM and running efficiently at that high of an RPM is incredibly difficult to do. We tried that. We played around with that a lot to see if we couldn't get it to work. But ultimately, we found it was just as easy to go back to the basics.
Russell, I see guys fighting big rounds on horizontals, and it's so much easier to put on a vertical. And they say, I think it depends on what. I love the box wedge for big rounds, right? You put it on the log lift, and that log lift on the 1222 and all the other machines will lift anything you put on it. It really will. And the way they have it designed, when you bring that log lift all the way up, it stops in a perfect position for that round to roll into the cradle. And if you've got a box wedge, I mean, there's really no manhandling at all. Vertical splitters definitely are nice. But if you've got a box wedge with a good log lift, I think the horizontal splitter works really well too.
I think you nailed it there, Brad. That's what you'll find. Like the bigger rounds slide okay across the table and stuff like that, but you still have to have a good bit of upper body strength to wrestle them around and push them one way or the other. Where with the box wedge, you don't need to do any of that. It's more or less taken care of. You might need to roll the odd one here or there with the box wedge in it, but for the most part, they're pretty they're a pretty nice machine to run with a box wedge in them.
Here's a question that I don't know the answer to from Keith. I've been talking with Mark for a couple of weeks, have been holding off on an Evo order until the tariff issues are confirmed. Before I order, can you make a hookup like Brad's for my 24-foot Wolf Ridge conveyor?
Probably not, because we don't know what is there. I'm not that familiar with it. I honestly haven't ever really paid a whole lot of attention to the front of a Wolf Ridge conveyor, honestly. But it's just a simple pinhole ring. Like if you have a buddy that's a welder, or if you have a local fabricator around, they'd be able to rig up a pinhole ring on the front of it fairly easily for you to make it work. So I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that and it work well for you.
Yeah, I think you'd really have to have one in front of you to make the correct measurements so that everything matches up properly. Because the way you had the one that you built for mine designed, it's already on there and connected, and everything really matched up really well.
Yeah, like we have the technology that when we put we have the processor drawn up in our CAD software, and then we just add the conveyor, and we can literally couple it together and see exactly where the clearances are, and where everything needs to fit to match up perfectly. Where if we don't have that, I don't know, maybe Walfred will send me a model of their conveyor, but I really doubt it. So.
Bill said he accidentally broke the cover on the front of the cooling fan on his 1222. Is there a place I can get a replacement cover?
Yeah, it's an AKG cooler, so you'd be able to give them a call or give us a call. One or the other. It should be fairly easy to get one way or the other to you, Bill. If you give us a call, we might even have something kicking around there off an old cooler. We might be able to get sent out to you too. So
there you go, Bill. James, how you doing tonight, buddy? Good to see you. I don't know if I shouted out to you yet. Good to see you. What are your thoughts on the shorter stroke lengths to pump the cycle times?
That's kind of a touchy one. I think it's just kind of a half-assed way of doing it, honestly. Like, why would you? Because there's a lot of machines that do that. Like, you'll see a lot of machines, vertical and horizontal, that have a really fast cycle time, but they have a 20-inch stroke on them or an 18-inch stroke on them, and you're taking, I don't know, 15-20% of the time out of it right there. So in terms of cycle times, if that's what you're after, you're cheating, really.
But you've really captured the best of both worlds, like with the axis with the stroke limiter, right? You can adjust that depending on what size, what length rounds you're splitting, and I mean that it does cut down on your time. Yeah,
and then on the horizontals, like you have to have room front and back of the pusher to between the pusher and the wedge. Like if you're doing a 16-inch piece of wood, you don't want much less than 24 inches. Because if you roll it in there, you want to have room if it doesn't roll in straight for it to roll in. Like you want to have room one way or the other because it's not always going to roll in perfectly. So you want to have a little bit of room on either end of it. And when I've done it, we have done a handful of Bell's processors that were 20-inch machines, and it pissed people off. People didn't like it. So that's my experience with it. I've done it both ways, and if you do the 20-inch stroke, it just doesn't. I'm not a fan of it. It's just you're just cheating yourself. It's like going to the gym and going to Dairy Queen afterwards. It just that doesn't make sense.
Buck and Firewood says, is it cost effective to buy an engine off of you for the Axis?
Yeah, probably. We probably ought to sell it to you for the same price as you get it from anywhere else. But ultimately, you probably be. It would really depend on that end of it. Like we may be able to beat the local store's price, but obviously we still have to make a little bit of money on parts we sell. So you may be able to find one less expensive locally, or maybe from if you want to maybe buy an offshore engine or something like that from Princess Auto. I think he's up in Espanola, so he'd have Princess Auto. It's sort of like your Harbor Freight. It's where you go and buy things you don't need.
Yeah, and if you break it, you just go buy another one.
Yeah. So it may be cheaper one way or the other, but if you give us a call, we can get you a price on it for sure.
I've had this situation before, so maybe I can offer some insight. Andrew, the pin that flips over the end, my buddy pushed it through and it flipped inside the square tubing. Never got it out, referring to the conveyor arm locks. So I had that happen on the receiver on the hitch for my 1222. I've had that happen before, and I was able to take some really long needle nose pliers in there and get it back out. But yeah, when it flips over inside the tubing, it does present a little bit of a problem. I don't know if there's a trick to that or not.
It's just a lot of screwing around to get it turned back over the other way, honestly. And it's one of those things that it's nice to have because then you're not going to lose the other pin out of the other end of it. So that's what I like about it, because myself, I will lose the pin out of the other end of it. So that's why we've gone with that kind of style of pin in it. But they can be a pain if they do flip over. You got to be a little bit careful when you're putting them in through the hole. So
yeah, so I think after it happens to you the first time, you become more careful with it from then on out.
yeah. You just hope you don't do it again.
Yeah, and you're a little more careful. So I mean, I take more care when I put it in and out now, so it doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're just more conscious of it.
Fairweather Lane Firewood. I bought a 1222 used and have had some issues. The service and support from the crew at Eastonmade have been very helpful and easy to work with all the way through. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. We've got a pretty awesome team of people there. Like, if you're looking for splitter service, you'd be dealing with Henry on that end of it, and he's normally on the ball pretty good. If you get Henry what he needs on his end of it, he'll normally make sure that you're looked after and do it in an incredibly timely order. He knows the machines in and out too. So,
yeah, I think that's something that I've noticed a lot, because I follow a lot in the Facebook groups and stuff, and just because somebody doesn't buy a new machine from you, they may be the second, third, fourth owner of a machine. I find that Eastonmade is always looks after the customers, even if they're not the original owners of the machine. Who knows what has happened to them or what kind of abuse they have taken in the meantime, but they still look after them.
Yeah, we want to make sure if there's a machine out there, it's working well and it's functioning the way that it should be. Like, regardless of if the guy is the original owner of it or not, we want to make sure that it's working well for him, it's performing up to their standards. And a lot of the times it'll be a simple adjustment or a simple part or something that a lot of times we can even warn you if it's something that failed, that shouldn't failed, or something we've updated. We're normally pretty good to get the parts out to you, even if you are the second or third owner and it's a couple years old, 3 or 4 years old. We try to do our best on that end of it to make sure that it's right for you.
Mark Wakeland wants to know what you think about these new all woods.
they're a good machine. Like honestly, I looking at them. I think they're a good machine. We talked about the short stroke on them. I mentioned a little bit about the big pumps on them and moving a lot of oil. Big cylinders, like you're moving a lot of oil, you're creating a lot of heat. That is the enemy of a hydraulic system. And they're a big machine. They are a big machine to work around. That is, and again, guys, this is just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt, please. But they're a big bulky machine. They are gigantic. Like if you watch Keith's videos, the machine's huge.
Yeah.
And you got to work around that all day.
Shot lift family Firewood. I tried to ask earlier, but wanted to hear your take on how Eastonmade and Cord King are both in Perth. I didn't realize you were right next door to each other until the chat told me.
Oh, we hate those guys.
That's not true.
No, not at all. It just so happens like that. Honestly, and not even the way we got into processors is when Dad bought Bell's Machine Shop, was local welding and fabrication business. That's what it was. The mill rating business, fabrication business, repair business. So Doug Sonnenberg walked over to Cord King. Well, we went to Cord King and they wanted to build him a specific machine, because he did 4-foot wood for bag elements and stuff like that. And they didn't want to build it. They said they were busy enough. They didn't have any interest in doing it. And so he walked across the road. He knew Dad because he bought logs and stuff off him. And said, Brent, do you want to build me a firewood process? That's what I'm looking for. And I said, well, we haven't got any work right now. We may as well do something. And that's how we got into the firewood business. And like we thought we'd build a handful of these machines here and there and be like fill in work for whatever. And we never ever expected it to get to this point at all. Not even remotely close. And that's how it started. That's how we end up. We're in the same town. We're literally, you've been there, Brad. There's one building in between us.
Yep, they're pretty much right next door to each other, and Stonemakers right across the street.
Yeah, and we're pretty we get along with the guys over at Cord King. They're good. They're a good bunch of guys, honestly. Like they really are. Like Dave Kravchuk is a hell of a nice man. They got the ownership group at Cord King. They're I don't know how I corporately own me, but the guys that own Cord King, I've talked to them several times. They're a nice bunch of guys too. The quality of the machines isn't quite the same as what ours will be, but I think the price reflects that too. You can buy a Cord King that's a little bit cheaper than Eastonmade too, right? So ultimately, you lots of guys own them, have had tremendous luck with them, built incredible business with them, and yeah, no, they're a good bunch of guys.
Russell wants to know if you've ever thought about putting a manufacturing or repair service in the USA Midwest.
Not really. We don't really have that much that needs repair service, honestly. We like most of the stuff that would go wrong on one of the log splitters or the processor is normally fairly basic kind of maintenance stuff that the most guys can do themselves, honestly. And I think we're normally pretty good to talk people through it. If it's something that's catastrophic or large enough that it requires expert, so somebody that's an expert to do it, if you're not comfortable doing it, we'll cover the cost to take it to a repair shop or whoever you would normally have do that type of repair for you. So
Newsome Firewood, how are you doing this evening? If you were to, totally hypothetical, make an ultra with a log lift, totally hypothetical, he says, would the side the lift was on be an option, or would it come standard on one specific side?
We would do it on one specific side. I looked at that a lot when I first started building log splitters, whether or not, because you have it so you pull it from one side to the other, it would make good sense. Like in your mind, you think that's a great idea until you start thinking about it. You got to move hydraulic cylinders, you got to move the table, you got to move the hydraulic lines. There's a lot of things that need to move in order for you to move that log lift to the other side of the machine. So ultimately, once you have it on there, you're probably not ever going to move it again. Once it's on one side or the other, you're probably not ever going to take the time to move that. I know myself, I would.
Right.
And that's probably the reason why I haven't ever done that. That it moves from one side to the other. Like I know some wood yards maybe set up one way or the other, and in that instance, it may be advantageous to have an option like that. But I think once you have a machine, it's pretty standard. The log lifts are normally on the one side of the machine. So I think that's what you'd find with that is once you change it, you'd probably never do it. We have done it before. On 1222s and bigger machines where we've put it on the one side for a guy, like
or both,
or both. You can get a double log lift machine. You can do that. So like we have done that in the past where a guy says like, I can't have the log lift on that side. My wood yard's already established, it's set up. I don't think I can run on that side. So we have done that before where we have changed around for a fellow that's completely and totally adamant that that's the way it's got to be for him. So
this next question is a little specific. I'm not sure how you want to respond, but how much money have you invested back into Eastonmade? I was thinking it recently and guessing around 5 to 7 million.
Yeah, it's a big number, gigantic number. Very, very large. More than I ever possibly thought I'd ever have in my life. So,
I guess that's how you, how you keep growing, right? You got to put it back into.
Yeah, it's like Amazon. Have you ever watched Jeff Bezos talk about Amazon? He said, "Oh, hey, Amazon's never made any money. You just reinvest it back into it." And ultimately, that's what it is. Like we try to. We try to have good equipment. We try to make sure that if there's any kind of a problem with the machine, we rectify it. Like, but like you gotta think. Like I started Eastonmade with a garage that was barely big enough for the car and a $500 welder. So like it's just snowballed, and you just keep reinvesting, putting more and more into it. Yeah, and that's kind of what you run into with any business. And most people that have ever scaled a business or built a business understands that, regardless of the size of the business. Even at that, like it could be a one-man show, or it could be a business with 20,000 people. It's the same thing, right? It's all relevant. It's just as you grow, the scale gets bigger.
Yeah, you were talking about there how you started in a garage. You could barely get a car in. You got to tell everybody the angle grinder story.
Well, Canadian Tire, the American lads won't understand Canadian Tire, but Canadian Tire is like it's not like Lowe's or Home Depot. It's more automotive specific, typically. I would say, but they have their own line of tools. They have Mastercraft tools, and they're not known for being the very best tools. So when I first started out, I had a 4.5-inch Mastercraft angle grinder. You can buy them on sale. At that time, you could buy them on sale for $19.99. So in $19.99, it was a hell of a deal when you compare a 5-inch Makita at $180. Like you're paying good money for the Makita. I didn't have the money to spend on the Makita grinder. I didn't have, at that time, I couldn't afford to buy the grinder. So I had this 4.5-inch Mastercraft grinder and cleaned up tubes and run it or whatever. And I blew one up one day and then it went back, and they have good warranty. So I don't know what happened to it. So gave me another grinder. I went home and I blew it up. I went back like an hour later. And I did this about 2 or 3 times before I finally walked back into Canadian Tire. They find us like, we can't warranty another grinder for you. Like you've blown like 4 of them up today. We can't warranty another one for you. Like you're doing something to these grinders to blow them up. And when you bring one in, that's all you can smell too. It just smells like burnt electrical, right? So,
yep.
But it was like 3 or 4 grinders, and finally they said we can't keep doing this for you. So I had to break down. I bought the Makita.
Yeah, so that's I always thought that was a pretty funny story because you were You were working them grinders pretty hard. And like you said earlier, it reminds me of the Harbor Freight that we have here, right? They're cheap tools, but they're cheap tools.
Yeah, that's exactly. And you can buy good tools at Canadian Tire. Like you can buy the Maximum series tools, and they're normally fairly good tools. Like if you look at like a lot of the Maximum stuff, it's normally built by somebody else, whoever it may be. But the master, like the bottom of the barrel Mastercraft stuff, it's not good stuff. It's terrible stuff. but it's affordable.
Right. Yep. And when you're just starting out, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, and thank God that the local Perth Canadian Tire was so supportive to keep giving me grinders, or else.
Bruce Davis wants to know if you have room for delivery to the Boonville show.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, like Boonville's still open, Paul Bunyan Show's still open, Escanava's open. So we still have quite a bit of availability for the shows. Bangor, there's a handful of slots left. So if anybody's in New England looking to pick a machine up at the Bangor show, we still have some availability there. So,
is there any availability still for the Firewood at the furnace? I mean, the fellowship at the furnace.
Oh, the fellowship. I think Mark might have sold a 37D there. The hard part about bringing machines, our own machines, to sell at the fellowship at the furnace is we need to have equipment to unload these things off a trailer and the room to do it.
Well, we can make that happen. I know people.
I'm glad Mark's gone to bed.
Mark said he's talking to somebody about an Evo coming to the fellowship.
Oh yeah, I would believe that. Yeah. I think for sure I'm pulling a machine down behind the Wagoneer, and I don't know if what Mark's planning on doing. But like I said, we just bought a big float today, so we bought a 40-foot gooseneck, so we should be able to put at least 8 machines on it, if not 10 if we're lucky, and then we're gonna have a top deck on it too. So we'll be able to put a pile of gear on it.
Nice. Marlon L with a super chat here. Thank you, Marlon. I appreciate that. Cheers to you. Brad and Andrew, what did I miss? Did you put a deadline on the drawing yet? Well, we haven't talked about the drawing tonight. The 500i and the 400 and all the other prizes that we have to give away are still, if you go to the website, firewoodatthefurnace.com, we are still selling those raffle tickets to benefit the Hope Foundation event that we do every year. And to be honest with you, ticket sales have not been doing too well. We don't have the sols covered yet, so we're trying to hopefully boost some ticket sales so that we can make a generous donation to the Hope event. So there is no deadline yet. I'd like to get it done sooner than later. I think a deadline might motivate some people to get involved, but we want to make the most generous donation that we can on behalf of all the Woodhounds that are participating in this raffle. But eventually we may need to get to a point where we put a deadline on it. So it is still available. If you go to firewoodatthefurnace.com, there's links right there that'll take you to the form to where you can get involved. Does anybody know of any live streams on Saturday from the Hoosier Firewood Hysteria? I haven't seen any announcements yet of who's going to be going live specifically, but I'm sure there will be. Maybe Jack or Ken or somebody, and Will. Maybe you guys know of something.
Is Dan heading down there at all?
I'm not sure if Dan's going there or not.
I don't know. I haven't been talking to Dan at all. I know there's going to be a really good turnout of guys there, though. Like it'll be. Hopefully somebody goes live, because it last year looked like it was an awesome show. I know Mark had a blast there, and they made a pile of wood for them. So,
Bob wants to know if you're going to Boonville this year. Both of us, actually. I don't know yet. That's going to be a game time decision for me.
I wouldn't miss it ever. Like for me, Boonville's a local show, right? It's only a couple hours from home for me. I'm only like Boonville's upstate New York, so I'm about 3 hours. And I could be at the fairgrounds in Boonville quite comfortably.
So Boonville for me is like I'm almost exactly halfway between Paul Bunyan and Boonville. It's about 6 hours each direction for me. And the Boonville show for me, the first year I went was a very wet year. It was not incredibly great weather. And if you go to Paul Bunyan before you go to Boonville, it's a slightly smaller show. Wouldn't you agree, Andrew?
I think it's a little bit smaller, probably not by a whole lot. But I think what we've run into with Boonville is coming out of COVID, we haven't had a nice year for it. There hasn't been, like Boonville the last 2 years, like 23, 24, both of them poured rain, like horrendously poured rain. So like a lot of the attendance that you would think you'd normally get at Boonville, you didn't get. And like normally for us, Boonville is as good of a show, if not better than Paul Bunyan's show.
Yeah, honestly. So I think I was there on an off year, but the Boonville show, I think I just, like I said, I think I just came on a year when I was expecting Paul Bunyan, and it wasn't that year.
Yeah.
I would like to give it another shot, but it's a game time decision for me, and I would like to come back up there to give it another shot.
I know, depending on where the person is, too. Like if you're in Vermont, like you're probably, like if you're in the Northeast somewhere, you're a lot closer to go to Boonville, and it's just as good of a quality show as far as I'm concerned. And even that, the like if you're in the Northeast, like with the Bangor's coming up, like there's a lot of good shows around the country. Like Virginia ended up being a pretty good show. It wasn't that well attended last year, just because of I'm not quite sure why it wasn't that well attended, but it was in they changed location. It wasn't the racetrack for years and years. They changed it to a different location there, so maybe that had something to do with the lower attendance on it. But
speaking of Bangor, Roger wants to know if there's an opening for a 22-28 there at Bangor.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, if you give us a call tomorrow, we'll be able to get you a 22-28 for that. Yeah, that's one machine that we do have available for Bangor.
There you go. Give them a call tomorrow. It can be there. Frickin' Jeep, what's up there, John? Good to see you tonight. I've seen this, so I don't know if you have. Have you ever heard or seen of a lickety log splitter?
I have seen a lickety log splitter lots. Yes, I have. I was down, funny story, a fella named Pat Post, the guy's just outside of Gainesville, Florida. I went down and seen him. Pat is, I had a great visit with Pat. John and Pat should get together. Pat's got a big wood yard. He's got, I think he's running like 4 multi-techs. He's got a Cord King. He's got a Blockbuster. He's got a graveyard of wood splitters there. He's got a Pezzolotto stuff there. He's got a bit of everything. And of all places, he's in Gainesville, Florida. One of the biggest wood yards I've been to. The guy's in Gainesville, Florida, and he's just such a nice guy to visit with. And Pat's been at this for a long time. And he showed me brochures for processors I hadn't even ever heard of that he got like 30 or 40 years ago. It was really cool. I had a blast with this guy. We spent half a day down there with Pat. I would have spent the whole week with him if I could have. But I don't know if Stacy would like that vacation or not. But Pat had every kind of a log splitter you could ever dream of there. Like everything. I could not believe it. He had lickety splits. He had he had everything. Like different processors there. I don't think he ever threw anything out. And it was just so cool to see it all kind of in one spot. And so some of the modifications and stuff, they're really handy bunch of guys too. Some of the modifications, some of the tools he's built, cool stuff.
Yeah, so John brought his lickety log splitter to the Hope event last year.
Oh, really?
We propped that thing up on some blocks so he could get it up to waist level. So because they were low to the ground.
They're low. Right? They're really low to the ground. Yeah.
And he propped that thing up. We got it set up, and he showed me how that thing worked. And to be honest with you, it's really cool to see a machine that is like you can actually see the mechanical workings of it, right? Like you could. Like it's an old school machine, but if you're into machinery and you're into how things work, you can look at that machine and actually see what's making that thing go.
I don't know. Maybe John can answer it for me, but for some reason, I think Pat had a lickety splitter there that returned on a big spring inside the cylinder, instead of it actually using hydraulics to bring it back.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Like completely and totally bizarre. You wouldn't I wouldn't even think about doing that now. That's just something that if I did that, I may as well put my head in the guillotine. I don't know.
Hey there, Lynn Walton. Lynn Walton, we just got your notification that you purchased a raffle ticket, so thank you for that. I assume you're in here because we were just talking about it, and there we go. The Flames of Firewood. Will there be any larger Husqvarna saws at the fellowship? That's only if the Husky guys, which I am not a Husky guy, that's only if the Husky guys bring one. And I know there's Husky guys here, and we banter back and forth, but it's all in good fun. So Chaz, actually, my tree service guy, he swears by one of the bigger Husky saws. I think it's called the 395 or something. Is that one of the big Huskies, Andrew?
That would be a big Husky. 395 is a big Husky.
Yeah. So he likes that one.
They're a lot of saw. They're a lot of chainsaw to hold on to. You're looking at something the size of 660 still in around there.
Yeah. So if somebody brings one, there'll be them there, but it won't be provided by me.
Yeah. There's a man-sized saw.
Will there, Walcott Family Work says, yes, someone will be going live from Hoosier.
Awesome.
So just watch your notifications. Make sure you got the bell clicked on all your favorite channels, and that way you'll get a notification when somebody goes live. Mount Tammany Ridge, if I were to bring my home-built MTR splitter to the Hope event, is somebody going to have a conveyor that I can share with? Well, that's something that you need to talk to Ken from York Firewood about. He is the head guy that organizes that event. I know that it's growing tremendously this year. There's going to be a lot of equipment there, and I don't know how he's going to organize it all because it's growing really big. They get a lot of support. They're getting a lot of help. They're getting a lot of equipment and a lot of manpower. So I don't know if a conveyor will be available, but Ken there at York Firewood, you can reach out to him and he may be able to give you some guidance there. It's going to be a big show this year, Andrew, there at Hope.
It looked like a really good turnout last year. It looked like it was a really good turnout last year. And hopefully, I'd like to try and make it down. It's just kind of a busy time of year for me. It's the school started for the kids, and then we have Escanaba. We'd have that.
Yeah.
And then Boonville comes up right after that, too. And I know there's a couple of trade shows for the metal manufacturing industry that are kind of in there, too, which are half important for me to go to. Firewood guys go to firewood events, and metal guys go to metal events, right? So
yeah, right. Hey, Bob's still here. Bob says Boonville is a good show when it's not all mud.
He's right. Like, normally Boonville is as good of a show as Paul Bunyan, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, one thing that I thought was cool at Boonville when I was there, outside of the weather that was going on, was at the end of the day, they have the big parade, right?
Yeah.
Do they do that every year?
Yeah. There's a big parade there. The other cool thing is the greased pole contest. If you've never seen a greased pole contest, this is something to watch. And they have all sorts of kind of cool things like that at Boonville too. They have a beards contest, Brad.
Well, I should have. Do you think I should have shaved it off back in the day, or should I have let it go?
Oh no, that looks awesome. If I could grow a beard, I would.
It's still not where it used to be before I knocked it down.
Oh well.
I don't know. It's one of those things that takes forever to grow it, and then a few seconds to knock it off, and then you regret it.
Yes, this is true. I used to have pretty big hair when I was a young man. My hair doesn't grow down; it grows out.
Gotcha.
And I'll tell you, when that was the thing going hockey here, I had a lot of her. So
you got to send me a picture of that. I'd love to see it.
I don't know if I've got too many of it, but I'll tell you, it was bleached blonde, and it was probably out about there under my hat. It was just all hair. I don't know how Stacy was attracted to it, but for some reason I got her.
Well, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
The Hogs Logs is heading out. Mike, have a good night. I know you're
Mike.
going to Who's Your Firewood Hysteria, so have fun there, and I'll be checking in to see to try to participate in all the fun that you all are having. Sorry I can't make it. Maybe one of these years I'll be able to get out there. I know it's a great event. Question from Robert here. I used an Ultra. The only thing I would like to see is the table to be 8 to 10 inches wider on each side. This way it does not disrupt the flow for resplits. Yeah, 8 to 10 inches wider on each side would make it a pretty big machine, I think.
And we've done it before. We used to have an option for it. I don't know why we kind of quit offering it, but we have had an option for a wider table. And like as we grow, I think you may even see an option for something like that. It has been a request we've got quite a bit from people.
Now, does that would that upset the balance of the machine when you get weighed out that far?
Really? No. Because it's fairly thin. It's a piece of 3/16, so you're only going to add 20 pounds maybe at the very most at either side of it if you do that. So it's not a whole lot.
Gotcha. I don't know what this question is referring to. Did he have a price sheet from Rainier Hydraulics?
Yeah, he did. He did. Absolutely, he did. Yeah. Yeah. Rainier is if you ever look up a chomper firewood processor, that is from Rainier Hydraulics. It's a cool machine. What it does is you bring the log in like this, and instead of having a saw, it has a guillotine blade on it, like a big blade that cuts the wood like this. It'll go about halfway through it, and then pushes it, advances the log, pushes the piece of wood through the wedge, and then shears it off the rest of the way. In fully automated machine, instead of having an in-feed chain on it, it had like a winch where you pull it up in, and then once it had hold of the piece of wood with the guillotine, that's what advanced the piece. It was way far ahead of their time. Like complex machine, pretty cool to see. Like fully automated too, fully automated, and like years and years and years ago. But what happens with them is when it shears it makes a really big mess of the ends of the logs because it's shearing the log across the grain. So the ends of the splits are really ugly looking normally. But the cool thing about doing that is when you squeeze a piece of wood that hard, you normally take a lot of moisture out of it too.
Yeah, so that was hydraulically driven, that shear was?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Really cool machine.
Wow.
Really neat setup. When we first started this, when we first started doing processors, probably had to be 16 years ago, maybe 15, 16 years ago, we competed with them somewhat. We heard it like back then, we heard of them a little wee bit, but I don't know if they mustn't be building them anymore. I haven't heard really anything from them or about them, but he did have a price sheet from Rainier.
I'd have to look that up. I'm kind of interested to see what that looked like. I've never heard of anything like that.
There's a handful of videos on YouTube here that if you want to check them out, it's a Rainier wood chomper, I think is what they call it. A cool machine. Really neat machine.
Dan's House of Smoke and Outdoors. Do you ship the raffle prizes or got to be at the fellowship? We would obviously prefer not to ship it because that is additional cost. But if you're going to be at the fellowship or at the Hope event, we could certainly give you your prize there. If you're not, then we would work something out as far as shipping goes, for sure. But we really need to ramp this thing up here a little bit to hopefully make this work out. I hope it works out. I mean, if it doesn't, we'll make adjustments and we'll make it work. But the more successful it can be, obviously this is for the Hope event, so hopefully it'll work out. I have faith that it will. We might have started this whole thing a little too soon, but it'll work out. All right, I think we're getting close to being caught up on this chat here, Andrew, which is good because we were way behind there earlier. Super chat here. What's that?
You think we're winning with it? We're getting ahead.
We're getting caught up. Yeah.
Isn't that something, eh?
Newsome Firewood with a super chat. Andrew, do you have a preferred brand of lubricant or grease that you recommend for the Ultras? Cheers to that. My
The
last little bit. And the bottle is
slippery
empty.
stuff. You want to have the slippery stuff. It honestly doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I use the it's Lucas, but it's something red. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is with the different colors of grease. Like red grease I like red grease.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I know what the difference is in it. But it's just the stickier is probably better on. Like you want to have something that's going to stay on there. But you just need to have some sort of lubrication on it is the big thing. And then like with the Ultra and the Axis, the way they're set up, the only time there's contact there is if there's a little bit of movement in the wedge or the pusher one way or the other. Like if you actually look around the pusher or the wedge on an Axis or an Ultra, it doesn't touch the beam.
Yeah, so I actually just greased the Axis the other day, and after I put the grease on the beam of the Axis, I cycled it a few times, and nothing moved. Right, the grease didn't spread because it's not actually touching it unless it gets pressure against it.
Yeah, and that's exactly, and I think that's that's a key to the longevity of the way that system's set up. Is there's not a whole lot of movement in it, and if it is, you have a little bit of pressure on the cylinder seals one way or the other with it. But for the most part, there's very, very, very minimal wear with them.
How often do you have people that need to replace the brass pieces on the horizontal splitters?
I don't know if we've ever actually sent a set out there more out.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody.
Like a handful of phenolic and stuff, and like if you look too, like it's not the pusher on the horizontal machines isn't a perfect fit because like you're never going to get an H beam that is perfect. Like depending which mill it comes out of, there's a lot of tolerance one way or the other on it. We just make sure there's enough clearance in there that when you put grease around the outside of it, there's grease on everything. Mm-hmm. And that seems to have been a really good thing for us. Like there's very minimal wear with the phenolic on it. And obviously it's softer than the mild steel is, and the brass, like it's a system that works really well. And the way that the pusher set up on it, because like you have a hub on the pusher and then the rod goes inside of it, there's not really a lot of room there for like the pusher and stuff to move around on it. So there's not really a whole lot of wear there. Where if you have like a clevis that kind of goes around, it'll rock this way and the pusher will rock this way.
Yeah. So
if you look at a lot of machines, a lot of splitters, a lot of processors, that's the way they're set up. It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot easier to do it that way because you're just gonna plasma cut a hole in the piece while you're cutting it. So it's far easier to do it that way. But in terms of longevity, it's not near as well. Even if you put whatever you want around the outside of it for wear material, it still isn't gonna be as good if there's movement there.
Yeah, so the short time that I owned that ram splitter, as we know, it had nylon wear bushings in between the beam and the pusher plate. And I went through 2 sets of them in the short time that I used that thing because there was so much slop in that thing. When you could literally, when you split a piece of wood, you could literally see the push block, rotating back and forth.
Yeah, so, and like nylon just isn't quite stiff enough either. Like it's not heavy enough. Like and depending on the machines that we've done it. We've done it a handful of different ways. Like the phenolic and the brass seems to work really good on the splitters. Like the longevity of it is really good. When we've done that on a processor, we haven't had as good of luck with it. And then when you get into a processor now, regardless of whether it's an Evo or a 48C60C, it's a AR400 top plate on it, and then the wear components are actually mild steel.
Right.
And like from experience, we used to run the bells machines like they just don't wear out. They don't. They last almost forever. And if you do need to replace them, they're pretty quick and easy to replace. But even at that, like, we don't hardly ever send anything out in terms of wear components for a splitter. It's very, very rare. If Henry did it once a month, that would be an odd thing.
Right. Victor, glad you could join us tonight. I'm glad you made the live as well. Have a great night. I see people are starting to head out to Wise Choice Firewood. Have a great night. I know people have an early morning tomorrow for those of you who are going to Hoosier Firewood Hysteria. Mark has a question for you there, Andrew. How much wood can the Evo split in 4 hours?
It's going to vary a lot. A firewood processor, it's going to vary an awful lot. I'm going to tell you probably somewhere between 6 and 8 full cord in 4 hours. But like if you watch Mike Morgan's videos that he's done on that, like he figures he might be able to get 4 or 5 full cord an hour out of it. So it might only take you might end up with 20 cords. It really depends on the quality of wood and the diameter of wood that you're running.
And somebody's got to be feeding it.
Yeah, it varies so much depending on how you're set up. We always err on the side of caution when we advertise the production rate of the processors. Like the Evo, we advertise it at 2 to 3 cord an hour, full cord an hour out of it. It's capable of much more, but it's capable of much less. So we always tell a guy, we always try to err on be very conservative with it. Like, because you'll see that with some firewood processes, they'll claim 9, 10 full cord an hour out of it. And you know what? You probably can if you're running at max diameter, max capacity, and you're running saw logs. You may get there with that, but it's not realistic. You're not going to have perfect firewood. That's not what firewood is. With saw logs, 100%, but we don't typically cut and split saw logs. We cut and split firewood. So there's going to be a lot of variance in size, diameter, shape, all that kind of stuff. So we normally tell guys 2 to 3 full cord an hour.
Yeah, so I was talking to Chaz actually today about that, and when the tree service is getting logs, I've got the 12-way wedge for the Evo, which I think 16 to 18 inch diameter is probably perfect for the 12-way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably another. You might even be a little bit under that, honestly, Brad. Once you get run, you'll probably find 14, 15 is probably the sweet spot for it. Okay.
And but I was telling him, you can go up to the 16-way wedge, but I think once you get up to that 16-way wedge diameter, I think Mike Morgan mentioned it in his video today that I watched. We're probably going to be taking logs that size to the sawmill anyway, right?
Yeah, a lot of times you will be. Yeah. Honestly, he nailed it with that. Like a lot of times when you'll get into something that's that size and decent for firewood, it's probably going to be a saw log, or you're going to be able to get a lot of lumber out of it, especially if you're running your own mill like Mike may be, or you may be. That it's probably easier to cut the good wood out of it, and then if you have a cant in the middle, that's not quite as good to split it up, right?
Right. So Mount Tammany Ridge is heading out. It looks like it was great hanging out with you guys this evening. Be sure to watch my MTR splitting build, Mount Tammany Ridge splitter build. So he's looks like he's going to be getting going on that. Is it WD30's birthday?
Is it Will's birthday today?
I didn't get a notification that it was his birthday today, but if it is your birthday today or coming up soon, happy birthday, my friend.
16, Will.
and I'm empty. I tell you what, I'm empty. The bottle's empty. We're 2 hours in here. But cheers to you, Will. Happy birthday. Whenever it is.
I don't know when the next time I'm going to see you, Will, but I hope I look forward to it. I really, really do. That is a genuine human being right there. If nobody's ever met WD30 in person, it's worth the price of admission to just go and see that guy. Believe me.
Will's a good guy, man. He really is.
Don't get any better than that guy.
Well, we are caught up on the chat, and we're going to get to the trivia question here for tonight before we wrap things up. And I know that we've talked a little bit about it, but if you watch the video, you will know the answer to this question. And tonight, as a additional prize choice outside of the normal, I got a couple extra Eastonmade wood splitters hats. And if you win and you would like one of these hats, that is a prize option tonight. And the question tonight is, I got 3 wedges with my Eastonmade Evo. Tell me which 3 wedges that I got. That is the question.
You got me beat.
So the first
I used to have firewood at the furnace hats, but they got scooped pretty quick.
Did Gage come get one, or did the big guy come get one?
I don't know if they were quick enough. They weren't quick enough on the draw.
Well, I messaged Big Guy and told him to make sure he got in there to get one. PA Trapper, you are the winner. The first correct answer, 6, 8, and 12 is correct. Send me an email to firewood@thefurnace@gmail.com. Let me throw that up on here so you know who to email here. And we will make sure we get your prize out to you. Firewood@thefurnace@gmail.com and pick your prize. 6, 8, and 12 is the correct answer. Timon said 2, 4, and 6. Timon, I'm glad you're here, buddy. You didn't comment early tonight. I always look for your comment to be here, one of the first ones, but I didn't see it.
We normally see Timon on the live stream, that's for sure.
Yep. All right. Jim, I've been under the weather and missed the whole damn show. Well, Jim, you're not alone because my wife, Valerie, has been under the weather as well. She was up all night in the bathroom, and I was confined to the couch to try to avoid whatever was ailing her. But I hope you feel better soon there, Jim. Sorry you missed the show. You can watch a replay. A lot of good information in here. A lot of good questions. A lot of good information there. So Alfred might have an answer to a question we had earlier. I believe what Dan with Back 40 was describing as banging a chain link fence is an air compressor purging when it shuts off.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I would believe that 100%. The nitrogen tanks for the laser will purge. And that's exactly what it sounds like. Now that he said that, they're only 50 feet from where I do the videos.
Oh, well, there you go. I didn't even notice that in your video, but
I never have either, actually. But Dan must have a good ear.
I'm glad we got some clarification on that because I was confused earlier. So there you go. All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up tonight. Andrew, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate everything that you do for this Firewood community. And obviously the Evo is a huge hit, and you're going to be pumping them out here. Hopefully a lot of people will be getting to see one in person. If you don't get to see one in person and you're available in June to come to the fellowship, you'll be able to get your hands on mine. I want to the whole purpose of the fellowship is for people to be able to see, touch, run this great equipment, and it will be there. We added that to the website last night. That's going to be one of the machines there for you to run. And again, Andrew, thank you for being on here tonight. I know it's past your bedtime. We didn't go too late tonight. It's just after 10 o'clock, so you should be good.
Yeah, Jack should be home from the hockey game the last 15, 20 minutes. He went to the Sens game with the old man tonight. So
nice.
Hopefully Jack had fun.
You know, I would love when I'm up there to come watch the little guy play some hockey one night. That would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I know it's a lot of fun. It's we really enjoy it. Kids sports are so much fun to watch in the first place, right? Like our kids have never played competitive ball, but they go and watch a ball game of the kids playing, even from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. It's so much fun to go. I look forward to that a lot.
There's so many life lessons. You know, it's not just sports. They're learning life lessons that they can apply to their adult life as they get older, right?
Yeah.
So how to deal with adversity, how to deal with defeat, how to deal with, not to get too high, not to get too low. There's so many great lessons in sports for the kids.
Funny thing last year when Jack was playing ball, it was the first year that these kids were pitching to one another. And I don't know, an 8, 9-year-old kid doesn't throw a hard ball. Like they're not flailing the ball, especially like in a house league ball, right? They're not. It's not a ball that's gonna inflict a whole lot of pain on you,
right?
So we were at the ball field there. We were in the grandstands, and Jack gets up to bat, and the poor lad gets hit by the pitch. And you could the ball was moving like this when it hits. I mean, the poor lad let out a yelp. You would have thought somebody shot him. Oh, geez, it was cute. It was the funniest thing in the whole wide world. You would have thought he broke all of his ribs or something.
Yeah. They put on a good show. That's for sure.
It was pretty adorable to watch that.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, again. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all the people who are in the comments tonight, all the super chatters, the moderators. Thank you for being here. It's always good to have a nice, smooth live stream with no nonsense. You're going to be seeing a lot of videos coming here soon. You're going to see me running the Evo. You're going to see me ripping through the logs in the yard. I'm so excited about this, and be proving my wife wrong here really, really soon. But I hope you all have a great night, and we will be back here on the last Thursday of the month. I know we postponed it a week this month because of all the events that transpired, but we're here every month on the last Thursday at 8 o'clock for the live stream. If it's your first time here, thanks for being here. Hope you come back and join us. And until then, we will see you next time, everybody. Have a great night.